Next in radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
You're listening to the Financial Survival Network. It's Kerry, Lutz, and with us, our old friend Wayne Allyn Root, fellow New Yorkers with lots of chutzpah and little fear. Wayne, how are you?
Hey, Kerry, I'm great, and reeling from the kind of blows that Obama is hitting the nation with on a daily basis, not just daily, but how about 5 times a day? I think the average person, Kerry, works for a living, and they don't have time to study what's happening to America. And I do, because that's my living. My living is studying what's happening and opining about it, talking about it, discussing and debating it in the media, on radio, on TV, in the web, et cetera, et cetera. So I see this hours every day, and I study it in detail. And I'm telling you, just as I predicted from the first day, when Obama was reelected, I said his last 2 years, he's going to unleash on America an attack the likes of which we will never recover from. And he's now slugging us in the head and the gut and in the groin about 20 times a day, every day. So many blows that you can't keep up with it. So many blows you can't respond. I call it relentless. And I know, because, I just landed a giant new book deal, the biggest of my career. And the book is called, it's not political, it's business, self-help. And it's called The Power of Relentless. Everything in my life is about how I am relentless. You cannot stop me. You cannot slow me. You cannot beat me. You can't beat someone who never gives in, who never cries uncle, who doesn't care about the word no. You can never win against a person like that. And ironically, I've always argued, as much as I hate the views of Barack Obama, I respect that he is very much like me, just an adversary on the opposite side. I'm a guy who never accepts no. I'm the ultimate capitalist evangelist who never accepts no and loves capitalism and fights on behalf of entrepreneurs. Barack Obama is the ultimate communist and Marxist and socialist who never accepts no on behalf of communism. He's the Castro of his day, and you can't stop him, just like you can't stop me. It's 2 immovable forces, and we're very much alike, and it's ironic that we both attended Columbia University together and both have very similar backgrounds. Obama was poor, and yet he got into the best prep school in Hawaii because his grandparents paid for it. And I was poor. My father was a butcher, but he happened to work for my grandfather, who had a little bit of money because he owned the butcher store. And in my last 2 years of high school, I too attended the fanciest private school in New York, paid for by my grandfather. So it's interesting that Obama and I are very much alike. We've both been around poor people and lived poor. We've both been around rich people and learned from them. We both come from a background where we've obviously learned you never accept the word no. You become relentless, and people can't stop you when you're relentless. So I see where he's coming from. I get him, whereas others don't get him. And I know what he's doing. And I know the way to defeat people is to come at them from so many different directions so hard that they try and respond to one, and the next 5 they can't even begin to respond to. And so you pass 2 or 3, sneak by them. That's what Barack Obama is doing to America right now, Kerry.
Cloward Piven.
And it's happening right in front of our eyes.
Cloward Piven, right?
That's Cloward Piven, right, exactly. Yeah. Overwhelm the system. And Obama's overwhelming the country and overwhelming the Republican Party, who, as I've said again and again on your show, unfortunately, they're a bunch of spineless, cowardly wimps. And they grew up, unlike Obama and I, they grew up not on mean streets, but in country clubs playing tiddlywinks and golf with Muffy. And they don't know how to fight. And they keep bringing a knife to a gunfight. And Barack Obama is bringing a bazooka. And we're not going to win this fight. I can see it, because Republicans don't know how to fight back. I'll tell you someone who does know how to fight back. Yeah. Bibi Netanyahu.
Oh, yeah.
Benjamin Netanyahu. I just watched his speech yesterday in front of the United States Congress. Amazing. Absolutely breathtaking and amazing. The skill he used to dissect and destroy Barack Obama and his agreement with Iran. Amazing.
Yeah. Yep. And, well, there are a couple of fighters, but what happens to the fighters, Wayne? They are vilified, they're demonized, and totally rejected by the party. A guy like Ted Cruz calls it like it is, and he's called a wacko bird by a guy like McCain, right?
Well, I'd be called a wacko bird, too. I have been. I'm in the media slashing Obama probably more than anyone in the country. Certainly as much as anyone in the country. I certainly hit as hard as anyone in the country. And the result is I was attacked by Mother Jones magazine just viciously. I was attacked by The Daily Show, tried to make me look like an idiot, viciously took my words out of context, literally edited and cut so my answers weren't the same as the questions they were asking. I was attacked viciously by Rachel Maddow, attacked viciously by probably the local Politico of the left in Nevada. All these people have tried to take me out and try to not say Wayne Root's wrong. They have to say you're crazy. There's something wrong with you.
Oh, they never get to the issues. They've never
they can't win on the issues. They can't win on the issues. And here's how a smart guy fights back, by the way. When you say that someone who believes in the things I do, smaller government, limited government, lower taxes, people get to keep more of their own money if they earned, less entitlements because the country goes bankrupt with entitlements. You've got to get rid of your debt and get rid of your deficit. Every country in world history has been destroyed by debt and deficit. If you paint that as extreme, radical, or crazy, number one, then I guess you think the founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, I guess they were all extreme and crazy because they believe in the exact same things I believe in. Number one, that's the way you got to fight back. And number two, this country's belief in those exact principles made us the greatest country in world history, the greatest economy in world history, the greatest middle class in world history. And now 6 years of Obama, and our economy's been gutted with an interest, not in opportunity, but in equality. The belief in every man being not just given opportunity, but every man being handed money, handed everything they want from government. That belief destroyed every communist country it's ever touched. Why has there been no innovation, no wealth, no opportunity in Cuba since the day Castro took over? There is no growth or future with socialism, communism, Marxism, the very things Obama believes in. There's no opportunity in Greece, Italy, Spain, France, Portugal. They're all bankrupt because they believe in the things Obama believes in. Yeah. So, it's crazy to paint someone as radical. When the Pew poll just came out, Kerry, and in 47 out of 50 states, Republican people call themselves conservative, outnumber, in most cases by far, people who call themselves liberal. So how can the media that's dominated by liberals try and paint me and you and people like us as radical and extreme and out of touch with the mainstream when we are in the dominant position over them? The majority of people agree with us, and you're calling the majority extreme and radical? Liberals are the ones who are radical extreme out of the mainstream, and they're just using Saul Alinsky's philosophy. Because Saul Alinsky says, look in the mirror and call the other people what you are.
Hey, Wayne, coldest winter in history here. More snow, more ice, and yet climate change, global warming. How do you reconcile the theories? You can't. The world's getting colder, and yet we have global warming.
Well, you can reconcile it if you're a liberal, because what you do is, at that point, two things. Number one, you fix the books, right? You cook the books, and you make things up, and you make believe that the numbers show global warming, which they don't. It's pure fraud. And number two, you change the name, global warming, to climate change. Yeah. That accounts for everything. No matter what happens, you blame it on climate change. Well, folks, quote me on this one. Wayne Root is 100% believer in climate change because throughout the history of the world, climate has always changed. It's always going to change. Climate change is exactly right. Of course it's climate change. It gets colder, colder, it gets hotter. It rains more, it rains less. Of course it's climate change. It's the biggest fraud in world history, that name.
Yeah, and try to explain it to one of these believers. That's their new religion, is climate change.
Well, you do understand, again, because the media doesn't allow, there was a...
it's settled. Wayne, it's settled science.
It's settled science, yeah. But Bill O'Reilly sent his reporter, whose name escapes me at the moment, because I rarely watch TV and I rarely watch his show
Same
either.
Here.
But when I do, I like it. Jesse Watt.
Right, yes.
He sent Jesse to the annual Harvard-Yale game. This was in December, Yale-Harvard football game, which is, the big game of the year.
Sure.
And he asked every student that walked by, what is your opinion of Jonathan Gruber and the fraud he pulled on Obamacare in America? And not one student, not one, knew who Jonathan Gruber was.
Jonathan who?
Because the mainstream media covers up. It's the greatest conspiracy I've ever seen. The mainstream media covers up for Democrats who are frauds and the frauds they commit. And so very few people know, as an example, that the guy in charge, the boss of climate change at the United Nations, has been charged with sexual harassment by multiple women.
I thought it was sexual
Very
assault.
few people know.
Sexual assault, I thought he was
Sexual
charged
assault.
with.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Even
this
better.
is worse, I believe. He was charged with sexual assault.
Even better. That tells you once more what the guy's made of. And how about the guy who was the highest paid official at the entire EPA, Environmental Protection Agency in the United States? Did you know that he's in jail for fraud? Did you know that?
I just so happen to know,
you and I know it.
I don't think I saw it on the front page of the Times. Did you?
No, I never did. And I had to dig through some conservative website. I think it was Breitbart where I found out about it.
Right. And what about the data being changed? They had the hard copy of the data for the climate, for all the temperature data going back 100 years. They manually or they imported it into the computer, changed the data to support the climate change model. I bring this up to 10 people on the weekend who are ardent believers in climate change. I said, did you know they changed the data to support the model? And they looked at me like I was from another planet, Wayne.
Well, and I'll bet the majority of Americans heard the barrage aimed at Rudy Giuliani a couple of weeks ago when he said Obama, I don't think Obama loves America. And I think the majority of people out there, not the majority of people who think like you and me, but the majority of people who don't ever watch the news and didn't really study the question or what happened or what Rudy said, they probably think he was wrong in saying that. And they'd be rightful in thinking that, because look at the reaction of all the Republican presidential candidates who fell all over themselves to deny what Rudy said is true. Oh, Obama loves America. Of course he does. We have no right to question Christianity or America.
Brings us to Scott Walker. Okay. Yeah. Now, he is not your typical blow-dried, focus group-driven Republican candidate. What's your thoughts on him? Does he have what it takes to fight?
Yeah, he does. I love Scott, but he also gave a bad answer after the fact. He just came back, because he was, I guess his people, his consultants, whoever, were embarrassed that when he was asked, "Is Obama a Christian?" he said, "I don't know." And does Obama
I thought it was a great answer. I thought it was a perfect answer.
But he came back.
Who the hell knows?
He came back with a wimped out answer. Of course, every person running for president loves America. What I would have said is, does Fidel Castro love Cuba? Because I think he probably does love Cuba, but he still destroyed it and ruined the lives of every person on his island. He ruined everyone's life. He destroyed their opportunity. He made them live in poverty for the last 50 years. And guess what? I'll bet you a majority of the people living in absolute poverty who could have had the same life as we do in America and instead wasted their entire lives living in this horrible socialist paradise where they have nothing but donkeys pulling carts and 1958 Oldsmobiles. I'll bet those people still love Castro. Why don't you ask that question? Do the people love the communists to ruin their lives? Sure. Does that mean it's right? And does Obama love America? Well, if Fidel Castro loves Cuba, does that make it right? Obama may very well love America. His vision of a fundamentally changed America, of course that's what he loves. He loves an America that looks like Cuba.
Stalin loved Russia too, right? Stalin loved Russia too, right?
Right, and I'm sure whoever, I don't know who the leader was of East Germany and ran the Stasi. I'm sure he loved East Germany, and I'm sure Hitler loved Germany.
Yeah,
Hitler loved Germany? Of course he did.
And Ceausescu loved Romania.
Yes, of course. While he was killing people and while he destroyed everyone's lives, they all loved their country. So Republicans don't fight back correctly. The other thing I would have said is, it's interesting that you're asking me what I think of Giuliani's comments. I haven't heard you ask any Democrat, including Hillary Clinton, who's running for president, what she thinks about Obama saying Muslim terrorists have legitimate grievances. Yeah. Where's that question? Do Muslim terrorists have legitimate grievances? Because if that's the case, did Hitler and Nazis have legitimate grievances? I'm sure they thought they did too.
And
someone needs to answer back properly.
Yeah, they really don't have a clue about messaging, and I'm not into focus group driven. I want authenticity in my candidates. We haven't had an authentic candidate since Ross Perot. But he went off the wagon, so who the hell knows?
Well, maybe he didn't go off the wagon. Yeah. Maybe Ross was right, too, but the media made him look like a nut, and so all of us to this day think he was a nut. Maybe he wasn't a nut. Maybe. Just like Ted Cruz isn't a nut, and Rand Paul isn't a nut. And I don't think, they're going to try and make Scott Walker a nut. Isn't it funny, when I, Wayne Root, questioned Obama's college background, I was called a birther. Okay, and I argued back. I had my lawyer actually contact the biggest liberal journalist blowhard in Nevada and tell him you're going to get sued for slandering Wayne Root. Because Wayne has never used the word birth. I've never mentioned Obama's birth. And you know what the guy's answer was?
Mm.
Anyone who questions Obama's background in any way, including his college, is a birther by definition.
Really?
So how come the New York Times, before Scott Walker's even run for president, ran front page stories questioning why he dropped out of college? Was it Marquette, I think? Wherever he went to college in Wisconsin.
Yeah, Marquette, correct.
He dropped out. And
Yes.
they're questioning it. So are they birthers? It's the most incredible double standard I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, well, and a couple other points. Hillary Clinton, is she the inevitable, or is somebody going to come and knock her off her perch the same way that Obama did in 2008?
I wrote, as you know, the book, The Murder of the Middle Class. And hopefully, by the way, everyone gets a copy of it, because I'm certainly not shy about being a capitalist and a great marketer.
Book.
So I'll
Great
throw that
book.
name in, Murder of the Middle Class. As I said in that book, Kerry, in The Murder of the Middle Class, Hillary Clinton is not only not inevitable, she's the most flawed candidate I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
She has no right to run for president at all. If Republicans had a brain in their head, they could destroy her overnight. Destroy her. And I gave in the book, there's a whole chapter telling you how to destroy her overnight. It's so simple and it's so easy. What was that comment she made about Benghazi and the people who died?
What difference does it make?
What difference does it make? You just run ads day and night the way they did to Mitt Romney before he ever actually got in the campaign. They had branded him as a rich, out-of-touch guy who fires people and takes away your health insurance and your livelihood.
Right.
And same thing could be done to Hillary so easily. Just run that ad again and again and again with her own words. The economy's in shambles, and then show Hillary saying, what difference does it make? and Iran's going to get a nuclear weapon and destroy Israel. And Hillary says, what difference does it make? And our own boys die fighting for America at Benghazi, and we didn't send troops. We sent no one to rescue them. Obama was asleep and said, don't disturb me. And show Hillary saying, what difference does it make? And the IRS is coming after anyone who's a critic of the president, like in a Gestapo state. Show Hillary saying, what difference does it make? And oh, by the way, while you were Secretary of State, the entire Middle East melted down, and America looked like a fool in the world's eyes. And show Hillary saying, what difference does it make? And that's the end of Hillary Clinton, whether she runs or not. Like Mitt Romney, she's destroyed before she ever gets on the campaign trail, and she can never win the election. That's called branding. And Republicans don't seem to know how to do it.
Yeah, defining your opposition. And I don't know if you caught the video of the guy asking her to sign the book and dedicate it to the ambassador of Libya. I can't remember his name now. Christopher.
Oh, yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, Christopher something. Yeah.
But then she wouldn't do it. And he goes, well, what difference does it make?
I didn't see that video.
It was beautiful. It was the ultimate gotcha. And O'Reilly says, oh, that was disrespectful. I said, that is the way you run a campaign, you idiot. Come on.
I'm so sick of Republicans telling me what's disrespectful when they continue to genuflect in their spineless, cowardly way to Obama and the Democrats, and the Democrats rip us to shreds. They don't care about respect. So why do you bring a knife to a gunfight? The whole thing makes no sense, the way we treat them versus the way we are treated by them.
Yeah, and then, hey, two really alarming developments, beginning of the end of freedom on the internet. We've got the FCC, net neutrality, and then we've got the FEC attempt to regulate political speech on the internet. How far are they going to get with this? Are they going to do it or what?
Well, it appears that the attempt by the FCC to regulate the internet has already passed, and there's nothing you could do about it. Now, again, I don't agree there's ever nothing you could do about it. As an example, in response to that, if I was running the Congress, if I was John Boehner, I would defund the FCC. That's the end of you. You did something the American people don't support. You ruined something that everyone knows had no reason to be tinkered with. It's so much like Obamacare, it's hilarious. Obamacare fixed something that was never broken and didn't need to be fixed, and it ruined it. Healthcare. And 70% plus of all Americans actually liked their health care at the moment Obama said it was a national emergency and it had to be changed. And then he changed it, and I'll bet you if you look now, 70% are outraged at how much they hate their health care and how much he's ruined it. So he fixed something that never needed to be fixed, and he ruined it. Same thing with the internet. There's nothing wrong with the internet. I love the internet. I've loved it for 15 years now, and they came along and said, something's wrong, let's fix it. And like Obamacare in the healthcare system, I guarantee you it will now ruin it, because government ruins everything it touches. And like phone service, massive new taxes are on the way, not to mention my greatest fear, it isn't a penny here and a penny there. My greatest fear is that it'll ruin free speech on the internet. Exactly. This is an attempt to take away my website and yours. So it's a disaster what's happened in this country, and we have to fight back. And all you have to do is two things. Number one, tie it up in court, number one. And number two, defund the FCC. In response, you've got to punish bad behavior, as Bibi Netanyahu proved in front of Congress yesterday. The only way to treat Iran is never reward bad behavior and punish bad behavior. And the same thing needs to be done to Obama and his allies, his socialist cabal. You can't reward them by saying, it's passed. Okay, nothing we can do about it. You've got to punish them. So take away all the money and dissolve the FCC committee. That's the end of them.
Hey, great idea. They've outlived their usefulness anyway. They were created back almost 100 years ago when this whole radio thing and TV was a nascent industry. Now it's mature. They don't do much of anything other than allocate new frequencies, and even that they do badly. So let's get rid of them. They've outlived their usefulness. And the FEC saying, we got to regulate political speech on the internet because it's just not fair anymore, taking money out of politics, another scam, right?
Yeah, well, all of this is, whoever, follow the money and follow the agenda. Whoever is saying it is the one that's losing. So in other words, if you are losing on talk radio, then you want to limit what people say on talk radio, the fairness doctrine, and you want to make sure that there's fairness, meaning just as many Democrats and liberals on the air as conservatives and Republicans, because you can't win in a fair capitalist society where the consumers make the final decision. You're losing. So you have to do it through law.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way about the internet. They're losing on the internet. They can't compete with Drudge Report. They can't compete with Breitbart. So they have to try and outlaw it. See, it's the same thing.
Exactly. And alarming trends in free speech. And if we don't stand up now, when are we ever going to stand up?
Correct. And unfortunately, they're just not standing up. The only stand-up that I've noticed, economically, they just don't seem to be doing anything to counter Obama. Again, Bibi Netanyahu, that was the one thing where John Boehner stood up and he arranged a speech in front of the entire United States Congress for a guy without the president's approval or even knowledge. That was kind of amazing. That's the only thing I've seen Boehner stand up on in all the time that he's been Speaker of the House. But Bibi Netanyahu's point in yesterday's speech, if you sum the whole thing up, it was very simple. You cannot reward bad behavior. You have to punish bad behavior. And so it's the same thing with Obama. When he passes immigration amnesty without it passing, by just saying, you won't pass it, therefore, I'm just going to go ahead and do it through executive action. That destroys the whole Constitution. That destroys the rule of law. That destroys equilibrium and checks and balances. In other words, the way everything has to happen in America, if you don't have a tyrant, is that you say you want amnesty, and I say I want a secure border, and the way we compromise is I force you to, if I'm going to accept amnesty for the 12 million who are here, or whatever the number is, then you have to agree that 5 years of secure border has to be proven to me before I agree to the amnesty, and then I'm going to make sure none of them are ever allowed to vote because they broke the law and they've given up their right to ever vote to give themselves, more amnesty and more entitlements and more goodies and more bribery. That's the compromise. I'll let you all in if you secure the border. But see, Obama says, well, I don't want to do any of that. So I'm not going to compromise, so I'll just make believe that you refuse to do anything, and I'll just pass it like a tyrant, and then therefore it's passed without you getting anything on our side. That's the way a tyrant does it. But the way America works is you've got to find a deal that everyone can live with. He couldn't do that, so he went in and passed something that Republicans get nothing out of it. So that's rewarding bad behavior by allowing that to stand. And so what did I see yesterday? Headline Drudge, just for about an hour. The headline was that Obama's spokesman said Obama's thinking seriously about raising taxes for the first time in history with an executive order.
Yeah,
you rewarded his bad behavior, folks. He's the Iranians. Bibi Netanyahu was talking about rewarding bad people in Iran, but we've got a bad guy right here in America, and you got to treat him the same way.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't agree with you more. Hey, Wayne, your website, your book, how do we connect and find your website and your book?
The website is root4america.com. That's ROOT for America.com. When you get there, sign up for my free commentaries that come out several times a week, root4america.com. And the book is The Murder of the Middle Class. You can find it at Amazon.com or any fine bookstore. The Murder of the Middle Class.
All right. Thanks, Wayne. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Kerry. Bye-bye.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Every week, the show is growing. Would you like to be a part of it? Then go to clubfsn.com and help support us with $1, $2, $5, or $10 a month and get a host of premium content with newsletters dropped into your mailbox, free books, private audio clips, webinars, and much more. Then join clubfsn.com. If you want to get ahead of the trend and ensure your family's financial security before it's too late, go to clubfsn.com and sign up.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.